I was looking for a way to tell this to your audience and not to bore them to death, avoiding lots of last names, difficult Armenian names, last names, political party names. That would be so boring. So I decided to take what's going on in Armenia and extrapolate it on Game of Thrones. You guys still remember Game of Thrones, right? The greatest show ever, except the
Yes.
last season.
I've never seen it, but Kaplan knows it, I think.
Okay.
Our
Yeah.
audience definitely
Our audience
knows
knows it. They are.
I think like, yeah, that's like the common language. Before Turner returned from whatever planet he was on, but
China.
Game of
I was in
Thrones
China
was-
for 12 years.
He said that doesn't excuse you. That doesn't excuse you. There is piracy in China. You could have torrented it or some other
Very
way.
true.
Anyway, so I was thinking like which house from the Game of Thrones should be the current prime ministers. And I hate to say this because this is my second favorite house in Game of Thrones, House Targaryen. Here's the reason why. Because House Targaryen, and we are going to slightly change the dates and mix and different time frames of different houses for creative reasons. Here's why. House Targaryen had this king who was referred to as the Mad King. So Mad King, or whatever his name was, Aegon Targaryen, the Mad King, anyway.
Mad King.
So the Mad King is the current prime minister because the thing he is announcing, the statements he's making, retracting, and then doing something even more stupid the next day, there is no other explanation to this but madness. This is just pure madness. One day he's saying that everyone should be peaceful. This should not turn into a civil war because people were outraged. People wanted to do something when he declared what he signed with Azerbaijan. The next day he called for his supporters to do a citizen's revenge, to go out on the streets and do revenge. And then I think he sobered up and he said, no, everything should be peaceful. Then he said that this Russian's missile exploded. This is like the pride of Russian military, this missile called Iskander. And he announced that this missile exploded for 10%. How can a missile explode for 10%? Nobody in the physics world knew.
Also, 90% of the missile didn't work.
Yeah, the Russians really got mad with him.
And blaming his missiles.
Yeah. And then he said, no, I was wrong. Your missile was fine, Mr. Putin.
Yeah, Putin does not like to hear his missiles dragged through the mud.
So he's saying he lost the war because the Russian missids weren't exploding.
They just don't go off. They just land there.
And the other thing you guys had wrong is that the military did not say, had we gone longer, we would have won. No. Our military is way much smarter than that. Our military told him to stop the war on the fourth day. On the fourth day,
like they knew they were outmanned.
Calculated everything and said we cannot go on. He didn't do that. The Mad King of the House Targaryen did not do that. Then on October 19th, which is like 24th day of the war, again the military went on and said, no, we cannot win this war. We got to stop it. And Putin went on and got a pretty reasonable deal for us. A perfectly normal deal that would have saved thousands of lives. We would have ended up with more territory than we did. And then the Mad King Nikol Pashinyan turned it down again.
That's the
and
problem.
even Putin, he tried not to insult him, but in an interview he said, I was really surprised when he did not accept this offer. Everyone was like, what the hell? Why aren't you accepting this offer on the 24th day of this devastating war when your resources are exhausted? The Mad King didn't stop it, so we had what we had by the end, and it keeps on. Like one day he wants to have like his elections to settle this thing. Then he says, no, I'm not going to have elections. Then he said, okay, I'm open to re-election again. He gathered. So the opposition. I will get to the opposition in a moment. The opposition was holding all these rallies for this past 4 months.
Opposition being
And
the
then he
people who are
decided, to show
against
his
the Mad
muscle.
King.
Several houses. We'll get to
A lot of homes, a lot of opposition.
So he said, I will have a rally of my own. And they used every possible administrative resource to pull people to like a square to show that he has still some sort of support. So they called schools, they called hospitals in different regions of Armenia and using pressure on people, forcing them to come. They organized buses, and he ended up with gathering some 15,000 people on this square. And mind you, when he was being elected as prime minister, there was 150,000 people supporting him on that square. So
just 2 years ago, or 2018.
Yeah, 2.5 years ago. So he lost 90%, even with all this administrative muscle that he used. It was just pitiful. Now let's get to the other houses. So there is he's trying to show this to show everyone that there is no choice but him. So he made second president of Armenia, Robert Kocharin. He really turned him into his rival because a lot of people have mixed feeling about that president, and he's like more of a convenient rival for Pashinyan. And I would call everyone who supports Robert Kocharin House Lannister, because Lannisters in Game of Thrones had all the power. They were good managers, like they had experience and stuff, but they were also somewhat, cruel to a certain extent. So
these are the people that support the president, you're saying?
Some of them. They that oppose Pashinyan. See,
and can I just ask quickly, who has more power in Armenia, the president or the prime minister?
No. This is not the president. This is the former
president.
Oh, the former president.
One of Armenia's second president. Yes, the president has no more power than the queen. So
got it. So it's really the prime minister.
Yeah. So, but the opposition is comprised of all these different factions, and the problem why Pashinyan is surviving for 4 months is not that not enough people hate him. Everyone hates them. They just cannot agree within themselves to what is going to be done. So, so they will call this house Lannister, and the former President Kocharin has been criticizing him heavily for years. He's been warning everyone about the war that is going to happen, and now he turned out actually to be right that way. And Pashinyan he just tries to divide. He has a criminal case on this president open. He's now in court, and that's the way he tries to control him.
So Prime Minister... just quickly. Prime Minister Pashinyan, was it his decision to go to war at this specific time?
No, it wasn't his decision. The war just broke out, but it was his actions that have expedited this war, that actually made this war possible, because we were on our worst possible relationships with Russia that we've ever had. We were not prepared technically. He was reshuffling the military all the time. Like, he was sacking a lot of experienced, good generals from the past, and he was bringing basically nobodies to a lot of really key positions. Like the guy who was head of our CIA, let's call it the CIA, he basically was 27 years old, so much younger than me.
Wow.
And he had no experience in that institution whatsoever. And he was trusted with all of this secrets, power, and everything that comes with a post like that. And he was hugely incompetent. So it was things like this over 2.5 years that sort of piled up and made this war possible, that made Ilham Aliyev, president of Azerbaijan, confident enough to start this.
And your prime minister though was always very passionate about the region, correct? Like I think looking at it retrospectively, he was faking it. Oh. Him being passionate, because there's earlier articles of him when he was very young as a journalist. He was saying, but do we really need these territories? Aren't they like a burden?
Just to catch everyone up real quick, we should say go back and listen to our old episode if you're not 100% sure what we're talking about right now. We had Narek on. I don't know what number it was, Kat. Maybe you could look it up, but it was about 3 months ago. And we talked about why the war broke out between Azerbaijan and Armenia, what happened, all that kind of stuff. I think that was right as the war was starting. So anyway, go back and listen to that. All right. Sorry. Keep going.
Yeah. So the other house is House Baratheon, or our Republicans. Republican Party was the party that essentially was the ruling party before Pashinyan made the Velvet Revolution, and he overthrew them to come to power. And it was third president Serge Sarkisyan's party. And they are also now on the streets opposing him. They were also, they were actually the first ones to start saying that a war is coming, that this war is inevitable, trying to warn everyone, but nobody was listening to them. Partly because Pashinyan was using his media, fake news and stuff, and all these criminal cases against them to shut them down, and partly because they were to blame for a lot of corruption that either allegedly or factually took place in Armenia. So they didn't have people's trust to the extent that everyone would listen to them when they warned about this.